Week 5, 1, 2, and 3-point perspective. The principles of perspective are converging lines, vanishing points, foreshortening, and scale. Perspective is a system of pictorial representation. It's a linear perspective, and it creates an illusion of depth. What we're looking at right now is 1-point perspective. There's always a vanishing point on a horizon line. The horizon line represents your eye level. So you can see that everything that is going toward that vanishing point, whether the box is below the horizon line or above the horizon line. This would be the equivalent of a railroad track or something where you're looking straight down. Now you can see from this illustration that there are boxes floating above, 3 boxes above the horizon line, 2 below, and 1 at the horizon line overlapping it. And all of them are going back to the same vanishing point. It's as if you're standing right in one spot and looking all around without moving. This is a good example of what 1-point perspective is. If you're looking down a long hallway and the vanishing point is so far away that it really vanishes and everything aligns to that 1 point on the horizon line. And this is a table, and you can see that this is from a 1-point perspective where the lines to the left and the right converge. If we had a long ruler, we could see that they will converge to a horizon line and 1 vanishing point. Next, we have 2-point perspective. The principle is the same. We have a horizon line, but now we have 2 vanishing points, 1 to the left, 1 to the right on the horizon line. And the lines you will see on the top of the box to the right move to the vanishing point on the right and then converge, and the top of the box on the bottom, its lines go to the left, so that you have 2 sets of converging lines. This happens when you're looking at an object and that object has its corner turned toward you. And it happens both below the horizon line and above the horizon line. This is a 2-point perspective table. The corner is toward us, and you can see the way that the lines operate toward the horizon line, the 2 vanishing points, to create something that feels like it's in perspective. So what's important to remember is not so much the system, but how to look at an object like this table with the corner coming toward us. And you can see that the top of the table on the left and the top of the table on the right are not parallel to each other. They're at angles where the one on the right would converge and hit the one on the left. Again, if we could pull back, if we were outside and we could see the horizon line, those 2 would meet. And lastly, we have 3-point perspective. The only time you see this is if you're looking up at a tall building and the top of the building appears to recede. So you have a spot that things vanish to as well as along the horizon line. That certainly can happen. And what also happens if you might be flying in a plane or you're looking down at something, conversely, you see more of the top of it and the lines converge as they move down to the ground plane. So the next thing we're going to do is draw a box. And there's 2 things that you have at your disposal, which is you can draw with angles, and now you know about perspective from today's lesson. So I'm just starting to draw with some big straight lines as I can make it. I'm sighting the box. You've noticed that the first thing I've drawn is the vertical line, and that has a top and a bottom. From that bottom point, you can notice that I took a diagonal measurement, And that tells me the depth of that box. That's super important because it's hard to figure out foreshortening. But when you have 2 points that you're working from, you can find a third point very easily. So I'm just going to continue to work here, and I find the angles, which are constantly up for modification, because drawing is basically a kind of series of estimations, kind of a guessing game in a way. You give it your best shot, you check it, you draw again, you check it again, and you do that many, many, many times until you've got something that feels like it's getting closer and closer to what it is that you can see. Here's the drawing that I did after several more minutes of looking at the boxes, the box angles. Look how many times I've erased it, many times. And I also want you to notice that I have drawn the inside of the box, which of course I couldn't see, but I surmised where those angles would be based on the fact that I knew the top and the bottom and the corner, and I could just drop in kind of guesstimations of where those lines would be because they have to be in accordance with the outline of the 2 planes that you can see. So I would like you to start thinking when you're drawing these boxes, I want you to draw them as if they were transparent and that you're going to make some idea about where the inside of the box is. Although you can't see it, you can surmise where those angles are. I decided to check my drawing against the photograph of the box, and it looks pretty good. I was pleased to see that most of my angles look great. The one line to the left, I think there's a distortion in the photograph of it not being quite vertical. So I felt that all of that work was well worthwhile. One thing that surprised me, even though I've been working on this quite a long time, is that the right side and the left side were completely equal, even though it appears to be moving back into space. So when you're working and you're looking at your tabletop, you are going to have to trust the fact that there are vanishing points, but you won't be able to see them because they're much too far away. The horizon line is your eye level, that you'll be able to see. But if you measure, as I did this box, you can see that the vanishing points are well outside of the walls of your apartment probably, and you'd only be able to see something like this if you were standing and seeing the horizon line out in a big open field. What you're learning today are the principles of perspective. I want to show you a beautiful print by Yvonne Jacquet called Chelsea. It's taken from a tall building that she's looking out while she's painting, and in this case this is a silkscreen print. You can see the way that she's looking down, that the planes that are closer to you, like the top of that water tower, you're looking straight down. It's almost a circle. The further away your eye goes, the flatter the perspective. But perspective is just part of what makes this such an intriguing image. It's a fundamental building block that you need to understand in order to make wonderful art like this Jacquet print. Essential thing for you to remember as you're drawing, because you won't be always able to see the vanishing points, but you know that they're there. So you have to apply the principle of converging lines, the idea of the vanishing points, and all of this provides a way of showing the viewer that something is foreshortened. That happens because of these different elements as well as the change in scale as something moves away from you.